We're here today with Small Business Stories, and I'm in the building of Jaenisch Industries here in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, and I'm with the owner, Steve Jaenisch, and his son, Jeff, is here too. So anyway, welcome, Steve, and we're glad to have you here. And just tell us a little bit about what do you do at Jaenisch Industries? Okay, we do metal fabricating. Mostly it's fixtures for homes, you know, railings, spiral staircases, things of that nature. As a sideline, over the years, I've done a lot of artwork, and that's mostly for my own gratification, you know, although we have sold a lot of it over the years. Yeah, it's true, Steve. I think of you as an artist, too, not just a fabricator of a commodity by any means, that you're an artist. So tell me, how did you get started in this, Steve? What's the background on this business? Well, I'm part Norwegian and mostly German. Okay? What does that mean? That means if you live in this part of the country, you're really, really tight. See, over the years, when I'm building things, I always have these little pieces left over. You see there's racks with all kinds of little butts and ends, and it just irritates me to throw that away. So I had all this little stuff, and so I start welding it into things, you know. So the reason I got started building artwork is because I'm too tight to throw anything away, you know. That's exactly how it happened. That's true. So when did you start this business? The business was started by my parents. My mom and dad started in 1946. So we've been around a long time. And we lived in the same building with the business. So my brother and I were kind of involved in it from the time we could walk, you know. So I can't really remember when I wasn't in the shop. It's been a long time. So once you got to adulthood, did you just immediately take over the business, or did you do other things? No, I had high plans of going into the Air Force at one time, and that kind of got shot. So then I backed up and we just kind of evolved back into the business again. I don't think it was a super conscious decision. It was just kind of a natural flow, you know. It's it's not like I sat back and planned for a long time to go into this kind of business. I was born into it, and it was always there, and it just seemed natural, you know. Has it been pretty smooth sailing all these years, Steve? No, it's been nothing but up and down, severe ups and severe downs, mostly downs. But out of it all, I own my own home. Nobody starved to death. My kids still talk to me. So I guess in the final analysis, I've come out pretty well. A lot of my friends left, you know, and every weekend they'd drive up to Fergus Falls again. Well, I just never left, so I didn't have to drive back every weekend. So I figured that saved me a lot of money. And so, and I have my differences with City Hall. I'm always feuding about something, but I like Fergus Falls. You know, I like this place. I like to just get out of, leave my house, and 2 minutes I'm at the edge of town. I can look out and there's trees and hills and lakes and stuff. You know, I love it here. So I guess I've got what a lot of people want, you know. I don't have to take a vacation trip to get there. So. Yeah, you've had a pretty great life, and I do want to just comment on how your art is just something that those of us in Fergus Falls really know and appreciate and want to have a piece of it. Well, yeah, the best way to do it is if you have an accident, you drive into one of them, you'll be part of it there. But yeah, there's not many people know that we're involved with this stuff, but we know that. So now tell me, you were here with, was it your brother too and your dad, and how did that evolve? How did you progress through the stages, and now you have your son with you? Okay, yeah, we started, like I said, the folks started the business in 1946. It burned down in 1949. Well, that's the location where the VFW club is now. Okay. So the building that the VF is in, my folks built. And then they got that paid off, and then we tried a different sideline adventure, a business venture, and lost every single thing. So that went the house and the business again. When we left there, we lived on the top floor of the Eagles Club, you know, the ship. We made an apartment out of that at the time there. But so we started all over again from scratch, and in the early days, my dad did the shop work and my mom did all the business end of it. But she she died when she was 47. She died very suddenly, and so there was really nobody handling the business, and that kind of devolved on me, and I know nothing about business. So a few years later, the IRS was computerizing all our records. Well, they got ours all screwed up, and if I'd have been on top of things, I would have known that, but I didn't know it, and because they massacred us for about 2 years. In final analysis, we wound up broke again, starting all over. Then we took our old original shop building that we'd built out of junk and moved that out to the edge of town. We operated out of there for 32 years, and it finally burned down in the middle of the flood out there. But over the years, my brother went on, got a job where he got a paycheck, and I've always stayed with it. My son was kind of got grandfather. He got kind of roped into it just like I did. You're around it all the time because both my kids, when they were little, I'm not the kind of guy that goes out and toss a baseball with the kids or something. It's just not me, but they always were at the shop with me. So I had these little dirt balls with me all the time and stuff, and then I guess once you start out that way, it's kind of a natural thing. I don't know what Jeff's decisions will be in the future. If we can make something more solid out of this than what it's been, he'd probably stay with it. I've personally never worried about money. Money was never a big factor for me, which is a problem because every so often the bills come due, and if you haven't got money, you're in trouble. So I've mostly been in trouble all my life. I have thought about this. If I was starting over, I probably would take up a career field doing something I really hate, because then I'd make sure I got paid for it. If you like what you're doing, there's this tendency to kind of, it'd be nice to make a buck at it, but I really want to do it, and that, of course, is not a real sound business practice. Somewhere along the line, you got to pay the bills too. We've always operated off word of mouth advertising and what walks in the door. Well, Fergus Falls is a pretty limited market that way. We operate in the area, but trying to come together with some kind of a reasonable promotional program, but you know what advertising costs are. You don't have a lot of money to throw around either, so it has to be used judiciously. But we have had a few jobs in Fargo area this year, and once in a while things come up. There's some areas where we can probably get our reach out a little further. One problem is all of our stuff is, or pretty much all of our stuff is custom built, and you really can't. I can't deal with somebody in Wyoming or something if I'm going to custom build it, because it's got to be someplace where we can go out and get our hands on the location stuff. But we're working on a residential wheelchair ramp setup, which I think there's probably a coming need for. There's more people are getting where they need it. There's something where you could set it in a residential area, and then if the need changes, you can take it out again. It's not a permanent structure. Now that's something that we could pre-build, but we've got to go ahead and develop some kind of marketing on that. But all things considered, I'm going to be 71 years old here in a couple of days, and people ask me if I'm going to retire. Well, of course, I'm essentially doing what I want to do, so I don't know. If I retired, I would have to probably do something that I don't want to do. So that's not a good plan either. So I'll probably die in the saddle here with my boots on, or one way or another.
Yeah. You've had definitely, your story is such an interesting one of ups and downs, but you are still here, Steve, and there's something to be said for that. You are still here doing what you love to do and making a living doing it.
Well, when you've been beat down enough, you develop a hide kind of like a rhinoceros. Things don't really affect you that much. But and if I was going to do it all over again, there's certainly a few things I'd do differently. But the general trend of things, generally who I am and what I do, I wouldn't change. A lot of what I do derives from my study of history. So and history gets pretty broad. I got a tree stump table there, and cowboys and equipment. Anyway, my world is actually pretty big. You can live in Fergus Falls and have a huge world that you live in just by where your mind wants to go. Where you take yourself.
Tell me a little bit about this tree stump table, because I know this is built for a high-end home, and it's being custom built for these folks. And tell me a little bit about, how did you get it to look like this tree stump?
It's just all done with welding, yeah. Yeah, you can do an awful lot of things with welding. It's amazing. And otherwise, it's just plain pieces of pipe and pieces of regular material and stuff. God invented it. All I have to do is try and copy it. That's the way it works. Yeah.
Tell me about the pieces on the table here. These are like, you've got the semi-tractor and flatbed and the bulldozer and the crane, the cowboy. What inspires you to make these things?
Well, over the years, we've had actually clients that wanted given things, construction companies or whatever. They've gotten them for retirement gifts or gifts for the boss and things like that. Some things I've just done, like the cowboy there, that I'm just interested in doing that. Or like deer here, I'm interested in nature. Those things are fun. It's actually animals and stuff. You don't have to be so precise. They're all different by nature. Whereas if you're building a bulldozer, it has to look like the bulldozer. So that gets a little more difficult, really. It's just because you have to match the real thing. Mm-hmm. But I like drawing trees and bushes and flowers and things like that, where you can just let yourself go. And, God designed them His way, and I designed some of them my way. So you got your options there.
So who are the customers exactly of Jaenisch Industries?
Homeowners mostly, or contractors, anybody that's out dealing with. Ultimately, it's the homeowner. Art-wise, for many years, I built stuff for an ad specialty outfit, so we had seasonal sales. They're pretty substantial ones, but high volume, low markup type thing. But there's a lot of my stuff out there. Many thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces that I pretty much almost all built myself there, because I kind of enjoy it. If you get started on something, if you get a little flow going, I can turn my brain off and just keep going, But I haven't. I got out of that line of it. It was just the costs weren't working out. I had to get more money for my products here. So, and nowadays I'm not even so worried about selling. I just want to build some things. I figure I'll build a warehouse full of stuff and stack it up, and then when I croak, they can say Jaenisch is dead, then my kids can go ahead and start selling it and probably have some value then. See?
Well, I want you to know it has some value while you're living too, Steve.
Well, I haven't discovered that part of it yet. I haven't gotten there. Yeah.
What could you say that Jaenisch Industries has meant to the community here? And I know that you have Jeff and you have one other employee full-time too?
Right now, yeah. But I don't think we've meant a whole heck of a lot. If I walk down the street right now and meet 1,000 people, that maybe one of them will recognize who I am, but probably not. And Fergus Falls is a pretty small place. If I'd have sneaked into town, I couldn't have a lower profile. So I don't know what you do. You wear a body-sized billboard and walk up and down the streets, or what you do to get some recognition. But I don't worry about it too much.
No. Well, I tell you, I would say that a lot of people know that you're the man who created that beautiful goose sculpture in front of the Fergus Falls Historical Society. How did that come about?
Well, it started out, I was going to do I worked on the otter, and Tom Willett was the instructor at the school, and then I helped lay out the otter, and he supervised the crew and got these kids to build it. When they had the grand opening, Tom and I didn't get invited. So the only people involved in it weren't there. There was a whole crowd of people that I saw used to come through in delegations and stuff, and they were all at the grand opening. So I figured, well, I'm going to try a project. I'll sponsor a project myself, and then I'll darn sure get credit for it. So I talked to the city, and they said they would accept it if I'd build it. Then my plan was to sell stock shares in it. I figured $10 shares. If I can sell 1,000 $10 shares, I got 10 grand here, and that'll build this big goose here. Well, I started peddling the shares. Well, turned out, my return on that was about like 3 cents an hour or something, So I figured, well, that ain't going to work. So I finally the city puts enough muscle on me to make me finish it. and I got it, we got it done there. In a file analysis, I figured it probably cost me about $15,000 out of pocket, and I think I raised $4,200 or something for it. It was a flat-out loser, but it's done now. Yeah. So I figured every time I drive by and look at it, it's worth a $5 bill to me, being up there. So if I drive by it enough times, I'll break even on it there. But,
that's a new way of looking at profit or break-even cost.
Well, it's you don't have a lot of choices. I can either say it's a flat-out loss, or I'll say I get a certain amount of gratification that's worth something.
Yeah.
But that's just the way the world works.
Yeah. It's a challenge, isn't it, for really an artist like yourself to be in business. And if you were going to give some other person advice, now having been down this road a long time, what advice would you give someone who had this art ability and wanted to make it into a business?
Oh, I don't know. You have to get where there's markets. There's a few people in town that are doing artwork and they make some money at it, but they don't do it here. They build it here and then they go to Taos or New York City to a show, and that's where they sell it. I think we're very arts conscious in this part of the country, but we're also extremely tight. And nobody's going to spend any money for anything. Yeah. So if you want to make a living as an artist, you're going to have to get someplace where somebody's willing to shell out a few bucks for your product. Otherwise, I'm no expert. I've never had any form. I would be considered a primitive artist. I think more barbarian is a better term, but because I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't know if I'm breaking rules or if I'm inventing them or what. I just do it. That's all. Yeah. But I know this, that if I had a group of a dozen kindergarten kids here and we had an empty table, I throw out some craft paper and some color crayons, and I'll have a dozen artists in a heartbeat. They're in there just creating to beat heck. But after a few years, people keep discouraging them, Yeah. So I have in the file analysis, and they all give it up, because we're all very creative. It's just do you want to develop it or not. Yeah. But everybody's artistic.
How do you feel about the portion of your time in business that's spent in building things like railings in a house? Is that still art to you, or is that more of an industrial commodity that you do to pay the bills?
No, it's a creative process. We work very hard at it. We put a lot of work in it. It's not like we got a machine that's spitting these things out. They're all like that railing over there.
Let's take a walk, Steve. Let's take a walk and take a look at some of what you've done here. Steve, as a Ford dealer, I've got to ask you about this piece. Tell us about that Model T.
Yeah, my mother-in-law ordered that for her folks for a wedding anniversary years ago. So we made it up, and it was presented them with a bride and groom dolls in the cab there. So
yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. We've made a few improvements since on that vehicle, haven't we?
I don't know. I think they ran forever, and if the engine wore out, you cut up your belt and wrap it around the bearings and just keep on driving.
That's true.
Got 28 miles to the gallon, and no fuss, no muss.
Yep, and no computers to need to be reprogrammed. So there's something to be said for that.
Crank in the front there. If it wouldn't start, you just crank it.
Tell us about this piece that you're making here. Maybe, Jeff, you can help us lift this up so you can look at it a little bit. Tell me what you're doing.
We can tip it up. Just tip it up on this side here. There. Oops. There we go. Well, it's a special case, and it's a customer that wanted something different, and we looked at this kind of a rustic set of steps that they've got, and you say it looks kind of like a waterfall, so we designed up railings that would carry out that theme. So this is one side of it, but there's a pair of them, and they're both individually built, so they don't match up or anything, but they have the same style. But it's supposed to look like water splashing down this set of steps there. I don't know if the concept's valid or not, but if the customer is happy and I'm happy, that's all we really care about there. Maybe posterity will come by and say it was important, and maybe not.
So this is going to be mounted on, is it kind of a wooded area going down to a water?
All wood, and there are big stone slabs for the steps there. There's no water at the bottom. It's just, well, I guess the long ways down there is, but it's just, it's just a set of steps, but it looks like a waterfall. That's
Very cool.
so we're enhancing that idea.
All right.
But there again, it's highly individualistic. Yeah, we can set it down, Jeff. Highly individualistic. There, I have to satisfy the customer's desires, and beyond that, we don't care about the rest of the world. You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's the person that's got the checkbook that you have to satisfy. You know, everybody else, they can take it or leave it. You know?
Yeah.
There's a standard. These gates here is more of a standard style of railing. Our stuff is characterized by, good craftsmanship and a lot of quality. You know, our railings are built. They're individual structures. They don't depend on being attached to a wall or bolted to a floor for their strength. The attachments only hold them in place there. See, and that's what we're selling. And we don't try and compete with Sears Roebuck or anybody else. And we build our own stuff, and some people go for it, and some people don't.
Tell us about the tank you made here.
Oh, I used to build those for our Guard and Army Reserve units. I used to give them away for retirement gifts, but the last years I was getting the price up to where I could make some money at it, and they get pretty expensive, so I haven't done too many of them now anymore.
Yeah.
That's the Bradley combat vehicle. That's what the local Guard unit has.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
Well, we just talked to the customer, and Jeff got an idea of what her thinking was, so we put this together just as a sample, just to show it. Now we'll keep it because it becomes a permanent sample that we can use the idea later if it doesn't go now, or possibly it will go now. But there again, we're trying to meet the desires of the customer. And you know, in business, that's ultimately everybody's trying to meet the desires of the customer. You do it the best way you can.
So now you've had Jeff and another employee. Has Tom been with you a long time?
Oh, Roy?
Roy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Roy.
Yeah, he's been with us for several years there. Over the years, I've had as many as 10 employees. You know, but things go up and down. You know, like I said, when we had the ups, we had a lot of employees, and when we had the downs, there's been times I was working all by myself. So it can vary.
Yeah. What is it like to live with the risk of never knowing what your paycheck's going to be?
Yeah, I never even paying attention to it. I just don't worry about it. You know, some days you're broke and some days you aren't. You know, I've always skimmed through. You know, there's always something. I keep a Pringles can at home full of change. If things get truly desperate, I can always just cash in a handful of change. You know, that keeps me going. But there's been times when I didn't know how I was going to buy enough gasoline to get from home to the shop, or from the shop back to home, and that's happened frequently over the years.
What makes you still do this, Steve?
Bullheadedness, just plain absolute cussedness, bullheaded. It's a German and Norwegian heritage.
What does profit mean to you? I mean, profit's a lot of different things to different people.
Business-wise, profit is how you keep score. You know, are you a winner? Well, yeah, I got $100,000 in the bank. Okay, you're a winner. You know, how much have you got? I got $1.98. Okay, you're a loser. So, so from that standpoint, you know, there's winners and losers. The other one is, are you satisfied with your work? No, I hate my work. And the other guy is, I love my work. Okay, now you got satisfaction. That's a different rating system, but in the world at large, when you're talking to your banker and stuff, they really like the numbers game. You know how that is.
Yeah. Yep. Have you had any system for your numbers at all, or
any what?
System for your numbers, accounting wise, or?
Well, now there's a change. See, now Jeff's computer literate. He's got our bookkeeping all set up and stuff. See, I've never been worth a darn at that my entire life, and I have no interest in it. My dad had no interest in it. I have generational thing, but Jeff's on top of that. And the new world with new technology, it does open up some avenues for us to do some promotions and things that were out of sight for me all my lifetime. So there are changes there if you're willing to accommodate them. I, of course, hate computers. I hate telephones. So I'm a dying breed, and I'll drop dead here one of these days, and I'll be out of the picture. But I certainly, it's just because I don't dive into it myself doesn't mean I can't appreciate it, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, you have done business all these years in America. Steve, what does it mean to be an American and be doing business here?
Well, of course, I got other things. You know, in 1962, I joined the National Guard, and in 1990, I retired from the Army Reserve. So I had 27 years where over half my weekends are with the Army someplace, you know. So I have... That's the only thing that ever got me out of Fergus Falls. So I have to say, thank the Army for that. But your scope isn't just limited to the city limits here, you know.
Yeah.
I'm proud of American industry and stuff. I don't like what the government's doing to it. I think it's time for the United States government to get the hell out of the way and let us do what we do. All they got to do is quit screwing things up. You know, they don't have to do anything. Just quit screwing up what we've already got. You know, that's my feeling about it. So.
Yeah. So, if you had to do this all over again, Steve, would you do it again?
Probably, because I'm bullheaded, but that doesn't mean it would make any sense. I'd probably charge more money. I'm sure of that. I'm sure I'd have to charge more money. Yeah. But otherwise, I probably would do it the same, or pretty much the same.
Well, I can speak for someone from this area who I am tickled to have a few pieces of Steve Jaenisch's work here.
Do you remember when you first came here? I brought you a little car.
You know, I apologize. I forgot that.
That little tiny.
Absolutely, still have that.
That was welcome to Fergus
Oh,
Falls.
Steve,
I just happened to think about that the other day.
Thank you for reminding me of that. And I've got some beautiful custom designed horseshoes that were
your polo shoes.
Yep, made for my son, and they're beautiful, and those will always be cool. And you also have done the industrial railings on our building, and they're beautiful.
And that stuff down in the lube station. Remember all that?
Absolutely, you did all the industrial. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get some pictures of that. You did all the stairways and stairwells and that for our building too. So I've got a lot with your name on it, and you know, I think in Fergus Falls we're proud to have Jaenisch Industries creating this cool legacy here for us.
Well, it's different anyway. It's the only place in the world you get it. So.
Thank you, Steve. Okay.